Apparently, photo organizing is having a moment. 3 people asked me about it this week alone. So I'm hitting rewind on my earlier chat with Cathi Nelson, who turned it into a thriving business.
Nobody comes into this profession with experience for the most part. It would be highly unusual. But if you're willing to take the time you just go figure it out. And I bought Photoshop and I just taught myself. And I would say to the clients a lot of times, I'm not going to charge you for my learning curve. Is it okay? I've not done that before. But most people say, well, that's fine. I'm glad that if you're willing to go figure it out, that's because I'm not going to figure it out. So most people are pretty forgiving about that.
Well, hi there, and welcome back to Side Hustle Hero, the podcast that inspires action and helps you to grow your side hustle into a thriving income stream. I'm your host, Joan Posivy. Can you relate to this? I got photos scattered everywhere. On my desktop, laptop, phone, Dropbox, the cloud, and who knows how many memory sticks. As it turns out, I'm not alone. A lot of people find themselves in the same situation. And get this, they'll pay someone to clean it all up. And therein lies the side hustle opportunity. Cathi Nelson is a pioneer in this field of photo management, having built a business that helps people take control of their scattered photo collections, digital as well as the paper ones, and keepsakes in general. In this episode, you'll discover the multiple revenue streams, from digital organizing and scanning services to creating custom photo books and even converting old home movies. There's some solid money to be made here. For example, Cathi explains that a shoebox of photos is about 600 to 1,000 photos, and the average cost for scanning is 75 cents to $1 per photo. So 600 photos, that's $600 right there. And of course, I asked her how she would even start to price a job for a client like me. Cathi also shares actionable tips for starting and growing this side hustle, with advice on finding clients and building relationships that lead to referrals. And keep in mind, we're talking about working with people's treasured keepsakes, so it'd be personal, fulfilling, as well as financially rewarding. But before all that, if our chats are sparking your entrepreneurial spirit and providing valuable insights, consider giving the show a caffeinated thumbs up by shooting me over a virtual coffee. It's a real thing over at sidehustlehero.com/support. Thank you so much. Now here's my conversation with the founder of the Photo Managers Association and author of A Business Roadmap for Professional Photo Organizers, Cathi Nelson. Welcome, Cathi.
Thanks. Excited to be here.
Well, tell us, what does a professional photo manager actually do?
That's a great question. Joan, so if I asked you, where are your digital photos, analog, printed photos from your childhood or from your parents or from your own family of origin, do you know where they are and could you find them easily?
No, and no.
No, right, exactly. Yeah. Well, welcome to the worldwide problem that everybody has, right? So professional photo managers help the consumer that's completely overwhelmed with their photo collection. But it's not just photos, right? It's our photos, it's our videos, it's our kids' artwork, it's letters, it's all the things that we would be devastated if we're lost in a fire or a flood or somehow, because they really capture the stories of our lives. So photo managers work closely with their clients in helping them curate through all those photos and retell that story in a way that's meaningful and can be passed down to the next generation.
Lovely. You mentioned letters.
Letters, yep.
How does that fit in with photos?
Because, I wish we could change the name, the photo managers, but it just makes sense. But when I first started this many, many years ago, it was because a friend of mine, I was an early adapter to digital technology when we started switching from analog photos where we would take our photo rolls down to a 24-hour photo lab. And then suddenly people were switching and you were taking photos and we had them on memory cards. And we used to have to take the memory card from our digital camera and put it into our computer.
Yeah.
And people were really stumped by that. That was really difficult. And I knew how to do that. So I kept helping my friends until a friend said, well, what do you charge per hour? And I was like, well, I don't charge anything. Why would I? I was like, you're my friend. And she's like, no, Cathi, you don't understand. I once had a professional organizer help me move and manage a move project. And so you must let me pay you. So I finally agreed and I got to her house And not only did she have memory cards that she needed to figure out how to get to her computer, her husband was a Mac user, she was a PC, she was really intimidated by technology.
Yeah.
She also inherited boxes of photos because her parents had passed away, and she was one of 4 kids. And she had promised her siblings that she would go through those photos and have them digitized and return, a copy to each child on a flash drive, or each adult child. And she wanted me to make an album of her dad, who was really into gardening. And I said, Maria, I can't. The only way I could do that is if I organize the photos first so I can make an album. And she said, well, I don't care how long it takes, but I guarantee there are hundreds of other Marias just like me who'd pay somebody to do this. So I was looking for a side hustle, trying to figure out what was my next act career at that point. And so I drove home and I decided to call myself a photo organizer. And I started going to my local chamber of commerce, and people, the first client said to me, can you make a video montage, like a slideshow? She was a travel agent of a trip that I want to gift to the people that I took on a trip. And then another person said, well, what about, I have old Civil War letters. Can you help me with these Civil War letters? And then people would bring me the boxes of photos, but they would always have old home movies in there. And so over time, I realized it's really the keepsake stories that we keep. It's all those items that we keep that are around our family. And usually the letters happen to be in the boxes a lot of time that the photos are in, right? Because that's the thing you don't want to lose. You're trying to put it somewhere, and then you don't remember where you put it, or it's in the basement or the garage or under the bed or in the attic, but you know that those items exist.
So you're not so much just a photo manager, more of a keepsake manager.
Yeah. Legacy story. I mean, our members have changed the titles quite a bit, like a legacy storyteller, family archivist, family curators. There's all sorts of, and it's not just for families anymore, businesses as well, especially with the need for photos and things like that happen with social media and things. Like companies also are completely overwhelmed with all their photos. Newspaper articles is another big one. My son, who does this full time, just got a call from Hartford Hospital, and their auxiliary gift shop has decades of old scrapbooks that they've had that around what they've done, and they need that digitized. So, I mean, that's an example of a project that isn't about family photos. It's a company, it's actually a hospital who needs some assistance.
Right. And actually, for the side hustle person, this is great because they could take all those boxes, bring them home, and work at them at their leisure, subject to those deadlines. But to be able to start and stop.
And that's what makes it a great side hustle, is because most people aren't in a rush for that. Unless there's like a major event, like a wedding, an anniversary of a death or something. A lot of times people are flexible. One of our members, she just got one of her biggest jobs. I was there when a woman, she met them and came home with their boxes and boxes of photos, but she was leaving for vacation, and I don't think she's even started. That was in August. And I think she said, I can't start that project until October. I think she has a 6-month waiting list as well. So she has clients backed up, but it's because, then the client was like, that's fine. As long as you're going to do it. It's not like it's something we need tomorrow.
Yes. And like the example that you used about the parents passing away and the sibling tasked with doing this, when you were describing that was totally my dear sister. It's one thing to do it for a friend and to have her convey to you that this could really be a business. But what caused you to think that she might be right?
Well, because before this, I had been in scrapbooking, which was for many years when that was all the rage. And so I was always interested in it, mostly more from the storytelling piece of it, the fact that you could document your stories on a page, as opposed to the creative craft part of it, even though that many people love the crafting part of it. And I remember once I had 1,800 people working on their photo albums at the Connecticut Convention Center. We used to call them crop till you drop. And I would walk around.
1,800? Are you serious?
Yeah, no,
Wow.
It was a big thing in the, yeah. And I would walk around and I thought to myself, this is not about women sitting around cutting photos into cute, fun shapes. This is about people connecting, wow, look at this picture of Johnny when he was 5 and somebody else reflecting back. And it was about storytelling. I could tell that it was deeply meaningful to these people who, mostly women at that time, had given up a day or two out of their weekends to do something like this. And I observed that over many years. So I had a deep understanding of the value that people place on their memories and their photos. So, and I knew that people were frustrated. The people that were reporting to me that they were frustrated. I didn't envision that I would start an entire new industry that didn't exist at all. But I did.
Right.
I did believe, and I am very passionate about the why of what we do. So the why really matters. It's meaningful work. Our members always say it's the one job that people cry when you return things back to them. I mean, you have a box of slides that you have never seen, maybe that you inherited from your parents, and we suddenly scan those slides, and now you're seeing pictures of your grandparents or your parents before they were married or something, and you never even knew those photos existed. It's deeply personal and meaningful to people.
And something that can be passed on for generations.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And it matters.
Well, that first friend of yours insisted that she pay you. How did you connect with that first non-family, non-friends paying client?
So I just happened to go to our local Chamber of Commerce, had like a free get to know you meeting. And I had put together a brochure at that point. And so I kind of went and introduced myself. And I just said, I'm a personal photo organizer. And that was when the first couple people hired me pretty quickly. And I was really surprised. I didn't know that they would really hire me. And the word started to spread. It just people told other people. And before I knew it, I had a busy business. And I was learning as I went. Like, I didn't know how to make video. We still say that to people that join. Nobody comes into this profession with experience for the most part. It would be highly unusual. But if you're willing to take the time you just go figure it out. Like, I knew I could figure out how to make a video slideshow. I mean, there was no YouTube in those days, but I knew a friend at church who had done slideshows. And I remember I called her up and I said, how do you do that? And she told me that she's Photoshop. And I'm like, okay, how do you do that? And I bought Photoshop and I just taught myself. And I would say to the clients a lot of times, I'm not going to charge you for my learning curve. Is it okay? I've not done that before. But most people say, well, that's fine. I'm glad. If you're willing to go figure it out, that's because I'm not going to figure it out. So most people are pretty forgiving about that.
Oh, and with the tools out these days like Canva.
Right. We're now in a whole nother realm of experience.
Yeah, but the organization piece is the first step that is so key. So it sounds like it was the Board of Trade or Chamber of Commerce that you first made your inroads. And then by the sounds of it, it really evolved to a lot of referral work.
It was a lot of referral business. Yeah. And most of our members would say that. And then repeat customers. We just did a survey. Finally, after all these years, 14 years, we did a survey and like 60% of our members answered. And I think 80% report repeat customers because people keep finding things. And once you know who the family members are, life keeps happening. Oh, could you make a calendar for my family for Christmas? Or can you make a photo book? Or it's an ongoing, it becomes a relationship. It really does with those clients. And then they tell their family and friends and things like that. So once you kind of break through that first, the hardest thing is always the beginning of finding clients, like in any business. But yes, kind of once you establish yourself as the expert in your community, you become kind of the go-to person.
And I can see those relationships being built with the clients too, because you're dealing with their treasures, you're dealing with their photos and their family members. And I can see them saying, oh, this is George, we met, and So,
and our members will joke sometimes. They'll know better than the family does about the age of certain points because they always say you have to be if you like puzzles, for a lot of times like puzzling together, family timelines. And there's a lot of speed tools and ways that you can actually go through a stranger's photo collection and organize it, believe it or not. But you do get to know the family members. Like, when do they have the braces? Like every kid shows up with braces at about middle school, I mean, it's not that surprising after a while, right?
Well, how much can someone actually make as a photo manager?
So we have members, it's great because we just did the study. We have members making over 6 figures with multiple employees and outside studios. And then those that have been in business by 3 to 5 years, if they're doing the business part-time or moving into full-time with maybe somebody that they subcontract, are definitely reporting $55,000 to $85,000, $90,000 would be an average number. The first few years by yourself as a sole entrepreneur, depending, of course, how many hours you want to put into something, we see numbers, anywhere from 500, 1,000, 2,000 a month to more than that. It is a good living. I mean, it is a great side hustle, and we do have members that are doing it very well.
And again, this is going to depend on the market and the person and so many factors, but what kind of runway should a person expect until they do get to that, that $500,000 a month?
That can happen fairly quickly because, again, so just to give people an idea, like a shoebox of photos is about 600 to 1,000 photos. And the average cost for scanning is going to be anywhere from 75 cents to $1 per photo. 600 photos, if it's $1 per photo, that's $600 right there. I mean, that gives you kind of a general idea about how the pricing goes. That's if they're scanning photos, but digital organizing is another.
That was my next question. What are the revenue streams and how does that work?
Yeah. And so people, a lot of times they'll join the photo managers, and we have we've set ourselves up as really like an onboarding ramp that gives you access to understanding all the different skills that you can bring. And then we always tell people, do what you love and outsource the rest. So some people love photo scanning, and other people, it's like the last thing they ever want to do, and they'll outsource that to our members in our community, or other people. So there's the different revenue streams are both. Everybody has analog photos at some point, if they haven't been scanned yet, or they have old photo albums. Now, those old scrapbooks that I helped all those people make, most people, nobody wants them. They're very heavy, and you can scan those and turn them into a much smaller digital photo book, and then create copies for all the kids and things like that. So that's like one piece of the business that some people focus on that. But then there's the whole digital organizing, where some members only do, and they can do it remote. They log into a client's computer, they go through and consolidate all the photos. You have digital photos in Google, probably Amazon. Maybe they're in Dropbox. You have them, you don't know where they are. You have multiple memory. Then you have all the duplicates and things. So they go in and bring everything into what we call Digital Photo Hub, go through and get rid of all the duplicates, then then merge your analog collection. So like in my Apple library, I can pull up my baby photos on my phone in a second. I can find any photo I need at any time. And so that's another project but not everybody does all of those things. They choose to do what they love.
What would be the 2 or 3 most common asks by a client?
Yeah, so the 3 are digital photo organizing, scanning, and creating photo books are, I think, the 3 top projects that people ask for. And then underneath that would be more like photo restoration. Home movie conversion has become a very big part of the business for members. I've been amazed at how many of our members have learned how to do that. They go out and get on eBay and buy VCR tapes and camcorders, and they can do that for people. And so that's another one that's, once people become competent in the technology, then they do that.
So how is something like that priced? So for example, the person that you described, there's photos in Dropbox, there's photos in this cloud, that's me. So how would you even go about pricing something like that? How does that work?
Yeah, it's based usually on how many devices, how many different places that it's located, and then how many photos you have, and then they know by how many hours it's probably going to take. So we recommend that our members charge, but that's a big question, like how do I know how much to charge? We say set your hourly fee of what the average hourly fee is for a service provider in your community. It's going to vary in different parts of the country, right? So it's a low of maybe $55 to, as high as $175, $200, depending on if you're in Chicago or New York compared to maybe if you're in Arkansas, right? It's going to be different. And then based on that, we know eventually you do a test with your own photos and you time yourself. How long did it take this to happen? And you'll start to become skilled at figuring out that's about a 5-hour job or that's about a 6-hour job. And a lot of times we talk to the client about, here's the scope of the project, but there may be changes. We'll let you know. And we coach our members a lot on how to do that. So you're upfront. Sure. It's all about communication, making sure that you're communicating effectively and so they understand. And in the beginning, you will undercharge. We know that. I mean, you're just going to. It's just going to, it's part of the learning curve. And
which is fair to the client too, right?
Yeah.
Because it's taking you longer. So you shouldn't be penalizing them, right? It's part of your education. So yeah. You mentioned 5 to 6 hours is and again, I know it's going to depend on the complexity and number of photos, number of devices, but is that kind of an average in there that somebody would spend on that, organizing somebody's digital photos?
Digital photos, I would guess it's going to average around a $1,500, $2,000, $2,500 job over time. The other thing is a lot of our members can price it out over time. Like they'll do monthly plans and things like that. But that would be probably more in the average. And we have had members that have had $60,000, $75,000 jobs. I mean, when it's an entire family's photo collection, multiple family members and things, that's not unheard of, believe it or not. Usually the client, it takes a little while for their comfort zone for them to realize the value of what they're getting. And then they're really pretty happy to keep bringing more and more pieces of the project to the client, to the photo manager.
Well, for someone considering getting involved in the industry, walk us through how you work with a client. Like someone contacts you and says, hey, help, I've got all these photos. They're in all these different platforms. Where do you go from there? How do you even start? What does that process look like?
Right. We have we provide for our members an intake form, so that you want to do a discovery call. And we usually do that for free. So you get with the client and the first thing is you want to ask the client, like, what is your goal? Like, if I could wave a magic wand over this whole problem, what is it that you really want and why? Because the client needs to understand that. A lot of times what they're really asking for is different than what they think it is. Maybe, maybe they think they just want, a few photos scanned for, for a graduation gift. And then eventually they realize, wow, there's so much more to this. But so then it's really a Q&A session with the client to find out what it is that they need. And then we call it assessing the mess, like counting how many boxes of photos do we have, and helping them. We encourage the customer or the client to gather everything into one place. And we have, again, forms so they can start making a list, though. Or here's a form like Dropbox, Google, so you can check off, yeah, I think I have photos there. Do you know your username and password for that? Probably not, but maybe you do, And so there's like a whole system, like a gathering process. And then from there, you can then do more of a pricing assessment and then also prioritize, like, what's the first thing that you really want done in this project? What's the next thing? And so that's kind of the way that you work with a client, and you get to know them well in that process.
So at that point, then you can give them this proposal that lists out, okay, if you want the whole thing done, this is going to be like $4,000 or whatever it is.
Right.
But if you really want to focus in on those wedding photos, we can do that piece first, and it would be $1,000 or whatever, something like that.
Yes, exactly. And that's usually the way it works. And then people will come back and say, maybe they have 50 home movies that they want converted. We say, well, we can do 10 a month. How's that? And we'll just do 10 a month. And each month, we'll put you on a retainer fee and we'll do your next 10. So that's not an uncommon approach that people take as well.
Okay. And so if I was that photo manager then, and we decided on the wedding piece, then you as the client would provide me shared file access. And then I would download those photos down to, I think you said Photo Hub is the one you use, or one of the ones?
We use the word a Photo Hub, but what we mean by that is you're not going to put the client's photos on your computer. You're going to get an external hard drive. First of all, the first thing you're going to do is, if you're going into digital, is you're going to make sure that the client has backed everything up. So number one, so they need to make sure their computer's backed up. If they don't have a backup, you recommend one, and you make sure that everything is backed up so that onto an external hard drive, which isn't that hard to do. Most people don't. And then you also put everything onto a second external hard drive that you're using, that you work on the client's photos from that external hard drive. So they're never on your computer, and there's always an original copy that's been stored safely, so that there's no risk of you making a mistake for the client photo.
So as the photo manager, I am accessing the photos, for example, from Dropbox, but they've made a copy onto an external drive as insurance.
Right. Yes,
okay.
Yes. And you're going to walk them through that. Yeah. You're going to do that for them, or they do it themselves on how to do it. Yeah. Yeah. Or you're going to export. So from the digital photo organizing, say you're going to export all the photos out of their Dropbox onto that external hard drive, and you're going to export their photos, and you're going to, so that you have all of the photos in one place. That's the key.
Right.
Once all digital photos are in one place, there's usually, I think our members will go an average like 100,000 digital files could easily drop down to 30,000 digital files once you eliminate the duplicates. Because a lot of times in those early years, especially with the memory cards, we were also nervous that we weren't keeping them, that we kept re-importing them. I mean, I did that, right?
Yes.
And now there's really great software that can find those, really find those photos and eliminate those duplicates.
Right. So I'm going to download, as the photo manager, I'm going to download all those onto an external drive, and then that's where I'm going to be basically doing my work and then presenting it back to the client to.
If the client is an Apple, they love Apple photos and they don't want to change, you put it back in Apple Photos. When you set up albums and all the different ways you can manage, if they're in Google, and then there's other programs that most people don't know about. We know about. We can make other recommendations, more private programs and things like that. So you make recommendations based on the technology expertise of the client and their comfort level with, there's some programs that require a little more technology skills. Some people have it. And so then we talk about that. So, you definitely, it's really all about knowing what's best for the client.
Yes.
And scanning analog photos is much easier. It's a little bit less complicated, right? It's really taking those photos, scanning them, and then adding the metadata, though, which is really important so that you can find those photos. You don't want to just scan them and get them back 00115,
Right.
That doesn't do you any good.
No.
So the goal there is also then to put them in a structure that you can easily find. Like I mentioned, I can find my baby. It's because we've added that information to those photos, so I can quickly type into my phone twins or my 1960 or whatever, and those photos show right up.
Wonderful. And does the photo manager have to be skilled at both Apple and PC?
No, most people are. Eventually, they do become, we do recommend eventually you get cross-trained, but the concepts of file management are the same on both systems, really. People get intimidated. But start with what you're comfortable with and what you know.
Right.
And then in time, you can add on skills. One thing, though, we really recommend for people, I always say there's 3 things to know if you'd be really good at this is, one, you have to really enjoy people and their stories. Because if you're not interested in stories and people, then it can get frustrating because people want to tell you about those photos and things. And then also you have to be a lifelong learner. Technology is changing all the time rapidly. We're staying ahead of it. We like Apple Photos just made their biggest change to Apple Photos they've ever done. We have a webinar for our members that's free by our Apple Genius guy, Paul, who is part of the Apple Genius bar. Everybody goes to Paul when they need help with Apple. We'll be educating our members about those changes. So a willingness to know that you're going to learn new technology over and over again. And sometimes you're just one step ahead of your client. I mean, you're never going to be a total expert at everything. You can't be. So,
yeah.
But you know more than they do, which is helpful.
Have you ever come across a photo or two that the client really didn't want you to see or completely forgot was in there?
Our members have a lot of, yeah. And they'll make like a folder, and some of our members have a statement on their contract about nudes or different things like that. They won't do that. Some will, or they'll just slip it into a folder. So absolutely. We have a code of ethics that we teach and we abide by, and privacy and things like that. So we do talk about that quite a bit.
It seems like the operating costs would be fairly low, except maybe what are the biggest costs involved?
It is really low. It's a very low barrier to entry. The biggest barrier to entry is the learning curve. The basic scanning setup is we recommend the Epson Fast Photo, which is like $599, and a good Epson flatbed, which is like $399. And eventually you'll switch to camera scanning, which I won't get into, but you will. There is better products that you'll upgrade to. But from the beginning, you want to just start with some of those basic equipment. And then really having just a good computer, and then your expenses are going to be more marketing, building a website, because really a website does really help and gives you credibility. And then, it's a low barrier to entry that way, for sure.
In terms of marketing, where do you recommend your students find clients?
Yeah. So the first thing we recommend is you start with your own social network, your family and friends. Put it out there. Okay. If you're thinking about this and you're listening, put out a note on your Facebook page or Instagram, or, send a text, hey, I've heard about this new business. I'm thinking about doing it. What do you think? Ask people, and those people are going to say, oh my God, what a great idea. I can't believe I never thought of that. Or I didn't know it was such a thing. And then from there though, doing presentations at your senior centers, community centers, libraries, historical societies is a great way to form a relationship. Residential organizers and senior move managers. So downsizing, our target market is going to be downsizing baby boomers. The key is to get the baby boomer not when they've it's when they're like empty nesters, still maybe working, retirement's not, is still a few years away maybe, and they're wondering, does anybody care about all the stuff in my house anymore?
Right.
That's a great time to talk to that client, because they still have the expendable income and they're looking for that downsizing process. The other great customer is busy double income families with 2 or 3 kids and multiple sports, with just drowning in all the photos that their kids have never seen. And so that's another great target market. So depending on which audience you want to serve is where you go find them.
Right.
I was at a fair and people were really interested. I mean, it was like, I think 900 or maybe 9,000 people came through, and we were sandwiched between a person selling like soy candles, and we weren't selling anything. It was really educational. Hey, what about your old family home movies or your old boxes of photos? And almost every person stopped by and was like, their eyes lit up and they're like, oh, yeah, I didn't want to ever put that in the mail. You mean, and Joshua's whole thing is, we offer white glove service. We do free pickup and delivery. We're here in town. I'll come and pick them up, bring them back to you. People loved it. They were thrilled.
Fabulous. And again, depending on the photo manager's preferences, they can work virtually globally through doing all the digital stuff, or locally hands-on. You mentioned one of the challenges is the learning curve. For someone new to the business, what's one thing that is their biggest surprise or they don't anticipate when they get involved?
Well, one of the biggest things, she's been doing it for not quite a year yet. Yeah. She's had 5 really good clients, and she really wants this to be, she left a major corporate job, and, she really wants this to be a significant business. And she was saying, on almost like analysis by paralysis. Like there's so many different options, and she's realizing that she needs to just, the Google Photos, Apple Photos, all these things. She realized she needs to just pick one or two, she needs to just become skilled at one or two things, and that's what she does. And so I think she was surprised how much there was to learn and how exciting she was going to be learning all that. And then how it almost has kept her from almost feeling like her competence kind of wavered because she couldn't be an expert in all things. So I think that's probably something that we talk a lot about. We also we just started offering once a month now, Ask Me Anything webinar series where we have our most experienced members come on and answer any question that people have. That's been really helpful. So, and the big first questions were, how did you find your first clients? What happens if you undercharged? They all talked about walking away from clients. Sometimes it's just not the right client. So those are the things that it's really being a small business owner.
Yes.
Surprising for people. Like, oh, I have to collect the money and then I have to send an invoice and yes, it's all of those things.
You touched on what makes a good photo manager, namely that love of stories. Another piece of that would be the willingness to run the business aspect. Any other traits or characteristics that comes to mind?
I think knowing that it is a business. So this is not a get rich quick scheme. I'm always clear to people. It's a true viable business which can be, like I said, I've got members, 10, 15 years that have been doing it and they love it. And you want to present yourself in the best light possible. So, a good website, branding, professional contracts over time. Over time, you're going to continue to build out yourself as the true professional in the community. And it's really rewarding when you do that, but it does take some time.
I cannot let you go without asking you about this, Cathi. Two questions. It's a two-parter. What are some tips that you can give us to get a handle on organizing our own photos? And then B, what do we do as new photos are coming in and we shoot like 10 photos in a day?
Oh boy, that's a big one. Well, to get a handle on your own photo, delete. Set up like as a Sunday delete day, or, you're in the grocery store or whatever. It just take the time, because really you're just frustrated. It's just too much data, and it's just going up there in the cloud. And, Apple's happy for you to add another $1 every couple months.
For sure.
For your storage, but
yep.
They're not incentivized in any way whatsoever to help you make better decisions than that. And there is a movement. People are going back to film in some ways because they want to take fewer photos. I think people are realizing they're losing and what's a photo? Because a lot of times it's a screenshot, or you don't want to forget, to my sister, I buy these green shoes or, red shoes, whatever, and then I don't delete those. But there is an acronym that I use that people love called the ABCs of photo organizing. So I'll kind of talk fast, but this is helpful. The A is ask yourself, is an album-worthy, archival-worthy photo, whether it's printed or digital? If the answer is yes, you want to star it or put it in a favorite, put it in an album. The B is it's really hard to make those decisions, right? So a lot of times I say put them back in the box. If it's printed photos, and put a note on that saying, if you inherit this box of photos after I'm gone, you have my permission to throw them away. Or you can create an album in your photos, library, and just say, these are my B photos. So, you can just slide them in there. You just don't want to delete because you're just not sure, but just get them out of sight.
Okay.
The C is that you can throw photos away, blurry, doubles, most scenery shots, right? The aurora borealis was here over our house last night. We were all out. The whole neighborhood was out. We were all out there. We all have 25 photos. I don't need 25 photos of that. So, in the next few days, I need to go in and delete a bunch of those, right? So yes, you can throw photos away. Especially scenery shots, and it's fall here, it's the blue sky and that red tree, I just want to jump out of the car and snap that photo. Well, that's great for that moment, but it's not something, hopefully next fall it'll look the same. And then S, but does it tell a story? Because really we use photography to tell the stories of our lives. So if it's an S photo, then you want to put it back into that A photo experience. So that's my quick tip for organizing photos, ABCs.
Awesome. And when you say you're going to be doing this to clean up those photos of the borealis and bringing them down to one or two photos, that you actually do that. I was on a trip for about 6 weeks and said to myself that every night I would go through and purge and purge and purge. And the first couple of weeks I was quite proud of myself, and then things went down from there. And yes, I ended up sending Google a couple more bucks per month. Yeah. I couldn't keep up.
Another big one, though, is taking the time to favor the ones that you like so you can find those quickly, as opposed to trying to sort through them all.
Yes.
That's another.
Yeah. What's the best way for our listeners to connect with you, Cathi?
So they can go to thephotomanagers.com. We have a photo manager and training program. So if you just want to get your own photos organized, it's $299 for the year. It's a whole year. Every month you get little tips, and we have a community. You get together with other members that just want to do that. But also becoming a pro then is there on the website as well. We have a great YouTube channel, the Photo Managers, our YouTube channel. We do a lot of more and more, we're moving things to YouTube. So you can get little tips on training and different products and things like that, and also learn more about us and
awesome.
all our social media channels. Yeah.
What was that first thing that you mentioned for $2.99?
That's called the Photo Managers in Training. We started that in January, and we realized because a lot of people would join because they wanted to get their own photos organized first. And we realized, you know what, we could put a training in that way there. You can upgrade at any point if you know now you want to do it as a business. But if you just want to get your own photos organized, it's a great community of people and support, and we teach you how to get your own photos managed.
Fun. And how much was that?
That was $299 for a year.
And what you just described, that's completely separate from the association or joining it, correct?
Joining as a professional, yeah. And you'll see it on our website. So our professional membership is $599 for the year, or $175 a quarter. It includes all our core curriculum, core training courses, certification. There's quite a bit, and it's all listed on the website.
Great. So different levels there that people can jump in.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll definitely make sure that that link is in the show notes.
Great. Thank you.
So what's your best tip, Cathi, to inspire others to start or grow their side hustle?
I have two things on the wall at my office that are, one is everything is figure-outable by Marie Forleo. That's my motto, that, you can figure it out even if it's really hurts your brain, just got to take your time. But I always mirror that with Brene Brown's, it's okay to be afraid, and it's okay to be brave and afraid at the same time. So those kind of go hand in hand when you're starting something. You're scared, but you got to be brave. You got to just put yourself out there and do it. And then you can figure it out. If you take your time, take some deep breaths, you've got this. And you're not alone, and hundreds and thousands of people are starting side hustles every day. And so find your people.
That's such valuable advice, whether you are becoming a photo manager, starting an association, just living life, and certainly for creating a side hustle.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Cathi, for telling us about the photo managing world and how it can be both lucrative and fun, as well as rewarding, of course, and for being today's side hustle hero.
Thank you so much for having me.
I find this side hustle appealing because of the minimal startup costs, the potential emotional rewards, and the flexibility in working on it around your other demands. Cathi points out it typically requires only basic tech skills, a computer, and a few key tools for organizing digital files and scanning photos. And of course, the big essential, a willingness to learn and keep learning and adapting as technology changes. The potential earnings in the field are also highly adaptable. You can take on a few projects a month for consistent extra income, or if you want to go further, scale up from 4, 5 to 6 figures, depending on how you want to build out the business. The best part is that you don't have to be an expert when you start. You can build skills over time. That's what Cathi did. And as more and more people were reaching out to her for guidance and support, she thought, I should start an association. And then she wondered, is there any rule against starting an association? She looked into it and found that no, there wasn't. And so, ta-da, the Photo Managers Association was born. I was intrigued on how you start an association, so I asked Cathi how she did it. And that's the topic of a second episode with Cathi, number 123, how to start an association to grow your side hustle. Could that be a future component of your side hustle? Or maybe, is there a need for one in the industry that you're working in now full-time, and its creation could be your side hustle? You'd be positioning yourself as an expert. To explore those possibilities, check out episode 123 with Cathi Nelson. Well, that's a wrap for today. In the episode description, you'll find a link to Cathy's website, as well as the full show notes, which live at our website, sidehustlehero.com. While there, be sure to grab a copy of my 28-page guide called Smart Start, From Idea to It's Live in 7 Steps. It's free for now, but not forever, at sidehustlehero.com. If you're enjoying what you're seeing in this podcast, it would be so appreciated if you would take a moment and add your comment, share the episode, and please subscribe. It'll let others know that there's valuable content here to help them start and grow their side hustle. Thanks for watching, and hustle on.